Emmanuel Macron has realized the European project is bound to fail, as France is now paying far greater attention to Asia and the Pacific than keeping its traditional focus on Europe, a former U.S. diplomat has claimed. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has called on Mr. Macron to give ground on fisheries, warning the French president that Britain will have to walk away from Brexit talks if he does not budge. The Prime Minister and Mr. Macron spoke on the telephone on Saturday with seemingly just days to go for an agreement on a future trade settlement to be struck. Mr. Johnson told the key EU leader he would explore every avenue to secure a deal, but was prepared to leave the Brexit transition period at the end of the year on Australian-style terms with Brussels if necessary. France is a leading member of the Coastal 8 group, which is said to be digging in hardest in talks, insisting that EU countries should maintain exactly the same rights to fish in British waters. One senior government source told the Sunday Times the position was ludicrous. But some British officials are said to think Mr. Macron might prefer to blame the UK for the failure of negotiations than force his fishermen to accept reduced quotas. As the clock ticks down and tensions are set to rise in the incoming days, former U.S. diplomat Tony Korn claimed Mr. Macron's strategy in Europe will soon drastically change. Mr. Korn argued the French president is going to strengthen the French-British Entente Cordiale while continuing to turn away from Europe's sandbox politics and towards the Indo-Pacific region. He wrote, since his flamboyant Europeanist speech at the Sorbonne in October 2017, Macron's juvenile enthusiasm for the European project has significantly cooled. While Macron's disenchantment with the European project is in sync with French public opinion, his growing interest in the Indo-Pacific is in sync with the rapidly evolving geopolitical environment. Mr. Korn continued, on the economic front, the idea of expanding the G7 has been around in transatlantic circles as far back as 2014, and began to gain traction with the institutionalization of the Indo-Pacific Quad in 2017. Nowadays, Paris, London, and Washington appear to be on the same page regarding the need to turn the G7 into a G10 including India, Australia, and South Korea. On the military front, the idea of a global NATO, in one form or another, has been around for longer still. In the wake of Putin's speech at the 2007 Munich Security Conference, most U.S. analysts wrongly concluded that the main challenge facing the West was a resurgent Russia. In transatlantic circles today, by contrast, China is the new Russia. It is of course too early to tell what will come out of the modern-day Harmel Group, currently redesigning the new strategic concept of the Atlantic Alliance. Some observers are calling for the creation of a NATO-China Council, others are in favor of better coordination between the Euro-Atlantic Quad, US, UK, France, Germany, and the more recent Indo-Pacific Quad, US, Japan, India, Australia. Others still favor what would essentially amount to a reinvention of CETOIN, the form of a full-fledged IPTO, Indo-Pacific Treaty Organization.